Stay
What the
calm now.
rancher did to
We have
her
to
in
get you
that
out of here.
barn was
I
worse
can't
than
move.
anyone could
It hurts
imagine.
too
Wild
bad.
West archives.
Just go.
In the distance, a small ranch sat quietly, its wooden fences stretching unevenly across the land. Life on the ranch had always been hard, but it was the only life that many families knew. The days were long, and the work never seemed to end, but those who lived there were used to it, finding small moments of peace and beauty amidst the struggle. Among the people living on the ranch was a young woman named Clara. She was strong and determined, with eyes that reflected both curiosity and courage. Life had not been easy for her, yet she had learned to adapt, to work hard, and to face challenges head-on. She spent most of her mornings feeding the animals, checking the fences, and helping with chores that required strength and patience. Despite the tiring work, she often found joy in the simplest things: the sound of birds at dawn, the smell of fresh hay, and the quiet moments when the world seemed to pause around her. That morning, Clara had a sense that something was different. The usual calm of the ranch felt heavier, almost like the air was holding its breath. She moved quickly, finishing her chores with practiced efficiency, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the day would bring unexpected events. She walked to the barn, her boots crunching on the gravel path. The barn was old but sturdy, its wooden walls holding decades of memories, both good and bad. Inside, the smell of hay mixed with the earthy scent of the animals, creating a familiar comfort. Clara tended to the horses, brushing their coats carefully, talking to them in soft, soothing tones. She always believed animals could sense emotions, and she often felt their calm presence help her ease her own worries. As she worked, the distant sound of hooves drew her attention. A rider was approaching the ranch, moving quickly across the plains. Clara paused, wiping sweat from her brow, and watched as the figure came closer. He was a man she had seen before, someone who rarely visited the ranch but whose presence always brought a sense of unease. His face was serious, his movements purposeful, and there was an intensity in his eyes that made Clara feel cautious. The rider dismounted and approached the barn slowly, giving Clara a nod that was polite but distant. "Morning," Clara called, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "What brings you out here today?" The man's reply was brief. "Business. Something you might want to see." He paused, glancing around as if making sure no one else was listening. Clara nodded, curiosity mingling with caution. She had learned long ago that in the wide, open lands of the ranch, things were rarely simple. Every visitor brought a story, and not all stories ended well. The man led her to a part of the barn that she rarely entered. It was quieter here, filled with old tools, sacks of grain, and shadows that stretched across the walls as the sunlight filtered through the cracks in the wood. He pointed to a stack of crates, worn and covered in dust. "We found this earlier," he said, his voice low. "Thought you should know about it." Clara approached slowly, her hands brushing over the rough wood. The crates were heavy, and the air around them smelled faintly of something sweet but unfamiliar. She frowned, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The ranch had its secrets, of course, but this felt different. It wasn't about chores or farm work. It was about something hidden, something unexpected. Her mind raced with questions. Who had left the crates here? What was inside? And why hadn't anyone mentioned it before? The man stepped back, watching her carefully. "Be careful," he said. "You never know what you might find." Clara's heart beat faster, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through her. She had always faced challenges head-on, but there was something about this moment that made her pause. The ranch, for all its familiar sights and routines, suddenly felt larger and more mysterious. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for what was about to unfold. Clara took a deep breath and began to move the crates. Each one was heavier than she expected, but she managed with steady determination. Underneath the dust and cobwebs, she uncovered signs of something long forgotten. Old letters, tools she didn't recognize, and hints of past lives that had left their mark on the ranch. She felt a strange connection to these objects, as if they were telling a story that had been waiting for her to listen. Hours passed as Clara carefully examined everything. She made notes, organized the items, and tried to piece together the history hidden in the barn. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows and warming the wooden floors beneath her feet. Despite the mystery and uncertainty, Clara felt a sense of purpose. She had always believed that understanding the past could help shape the future, and now she was living that belief firsthand. By evening, the crates were moved, the items catalogued, and Clara had begun to uncover the first pieces of a story that would change her understanding of the ranch forever. She stepped outside, breathing in the cool evening air, feeling the weight of the day but also a spark of anticipation. Something had begun here, something that would test her courage, her intelligence, and her resilience. She didn't yet know the full story, but she felt ready to face it. The ranch, with its quiet beauty and hidden secrets, was about to reveal more than she had ever imagined. As the sun set, painting the sky in deep purples and golds, Clara looked out over the plains. The world seemed vast and unpredictable, but she felt a growing determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she had the strength to face them. And in the heart of that old barn, amidst the dust and forgotten relics, a new chapter of her life had quietly begun. The morning light spilled over the ranch, illuminating the rolling fields and the wooden structures that had stood for decades. Clara woke early, her mind still buzzing from the discoveries she had made the previous day. The crates in the barn were more than just forgotten objects. They were pieces of a story that had been hidden for years, and she felt a strange responsibility to uncover it. Today, she knew, would be about more than chores. It would be about understanding the secrets that had quietly shaped the ranch for generations. She moved quickly, feeding the chickens and collecting eggs, her movements precise but filled with a quiet determination. Every sound of the farm, the lowing of cows, the clatter of the horses' hooves, the distant wind rustling through the grass, felt sharper somehow, as if the world itself was alive with anticipation. Clara's thoughts kept returning to the crates. What had been stored inside them, and why had someone hidden these items and then forgotten about them? There was a sense of mystery that she could not ignore. After breakfast, Clara grabbed a notebook and some chalk, intending to mark the barn and organize the items more carefully. The man who had visited the day before lingered near the fence, watching her work with quiet curiosity. His presence was both reassuring and unsettling. It reminded Clara that while she was strong and capable, she was not alone in the unfolding story. As she approached the barn, Clara noticed something new: faint footprints in the dust leading toward the back of the structure. They were small, precise, and deliberate, unlike the heavy marks left by animals or equipment. Her curiosity deepened. Whoever had been here before her had left these marks, but why? What were they searching for? The question stirred a mixture of excitement and caution in her heart. Inside the barn, she moved carefully among the crates. Each item she uncovered seemed to tell a small part of a much larger story. There were old journals, brittle with age, their pages yellowed but still legible. Clara's fingers trembled slightly as she opened the first book, revealing neat handwriting that spoke of everyday life, hopes, and fears from long ago. The words painted vivid pictures of the people who had lived on this land before her, their struggles, their triumphs, and the quiet moments of happiness that made life on the frontier both beautiful and harsh. Clara spent hours reading, cross-referencing dates, and making notes in her notebook. She discovered letters that hinted at long-lost friendships, agreements between neighboring ranchers, and disputes over land that had shaped the way the ranch operated. There were sketches of the surrounding landscape, maps that showed hidden paths and small water streams, and even drawings of animals that once roamed freely. With each discovery, Clara felt as though she was walking alongside those who had come before her, seeing the world through their eyes. Midday brought the sound of wind across the plains, and Clara paused to stretch. She walked outside for a moment, taking in the vastness of the land. The ranch seemed endless, a living tapestry of grass, soil, and sky. Despite the physical fatigue from her work in the barn, she felt invigorated, driven by the thrill of uncovering history and the sense that the land itself was speaking to her. There was something comforting in the routine of her life, yet thrilling in the layers of mystery she was slowly peeling back. When she returned to the barn, she found the man waiting near one of the crates. "I see you found the journals," he said quietly, a hint of admiration in his voice. "They tell a lot about this land, about the people who worked it." Clara nodded, feeling a deep connection to the past. "It's incredible," she said. "I never imagined there was so much history hidden right here." Together, they worked to organize the items. They sorted letters by date, grouped sketches by subject, and carefully stored fragile documents in safer areas of the barn. The work was meticulous and slow, but Clara found satisfaction in every careful movement. She was piecing together a story that had been forgotten, one that might have been lost forever if she hadn't been curious enough to investigate. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Clara noticed a small wooden box tucked beneath a pile of old blankets. It was worn and faded, its edges chipped from years of neglect. She opened it gently and found a collection of photographs, each one capturing moments frozen in time. There were images of families standing proudly in front of the ranch, children playing near the fence, and gatherings that seemed filled with laughter and joy. Clara examined each photograph carefully, imagining the lives of the people in them, wondering what challenges they had faced and what dreams they had carried with them. Among the photographs, Clara found one that was different. It was a faded image of a young girl standing alone near a tree, her expression serious and thoughtful. Clara studied it closely, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. There was a story here, she realized, one that had been waiting decades to be told. She felt a tug at her heart, a mix of curiosity, empathy, and determination. Whoever this girl had been, her story mattered, and Clara was determined to uncover it. The hours passed quickly, and soon the sky began to shift to shades of pink and gold once again. Clara felt the exhaustion of the day, but also a deep sense of fulfillment. She had uncovered pieces of the past, connected with the lives of those who had walked the ranch before her, and begun to understand the deeper stories hidden within its walls. The barn, once a simple storage place, had become a gateway to history, a bridge between the present and the past. As night fell, Clara stepped outside to watch the stars appear in the darkening sky. The plains stretched endlessly, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon. She felt a mixture of peace and anticipation. The discoveries of the day had revealed only a fraction of the ranch's secrets, and she knew there was more waiting to be found. Her mind raced with possibilities, imagining what the next day might bring: more letters, hidden paths, or perhaps even clues to long-forgotten events that had shaped the land. Before going to bed, Clara wrote in her own journal, capturing the events of the day and the thoughts swirling in her mind. She reflected on the people whose lives she had glimpsed through the crates, journals, and photographs. She felt a connection to them, a silent understanding that their stories were now part of her own journey. With a deep breath, she closed her journal, knowing that tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new moments of wonder. The ranch was quiet now, the animals settled for the night, and the wind whispered softly through the trees. Clara lay in bed, her mind alive with questions and possibilities. She realized that life on the ranch was more than just chores and survival. It was about stories, connections, and the courage to seek out the unknown. With that thought, she drifted to sleep, ready for the next chapter of a story that was only just beginning. The next morning, Clara woke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the wooden slats of her room. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew-covered grass from the plains. She rose quickly, eager to return to the barn and continue her exploration of the hidden treasures she had discovered the day before. Her heart raced with anticipation. Every new morning on the ranch now held the promise of uncovering more pieces of the long-forgotten past. After tending to the animals and completing her morning chores, Clara packed her notebook, some pencils, and a few small tools she had found useful for carefully examining old items. As she walked toward the barn, she noticed the fields shimmering with tiny droplets of dew, each reflecting the rising sun like a million tiny stars. The world seemed alive, vibrant, and full of possibility. Clara felt a deep sense of purpose, as if the ranch itself was guiding her to uncover its hidden stories. Inside the barn, the crates from the previous day had been neatly arranged, each one labeled with chalk marks indicating their contents. Clara began with a crate she hadn't had time to explore before. As she carefully opened it, she discovered a collection of old tools and equipment that had clearly belonged to ranchers from many years ago. There were leather saddles, rusted spurs, and weathered ropes, all showing signs of long use. Clara handled each item with care, imagining the people who had used them, their hands calloused from hard work, their days long and filled with effort. Among the tools, she found a small leather pouch containing coins and a folded piece of paper. Her curiosity piqued as she opened it, revealing a handwritten note in faded ink. The note spoke of a dispute over a piece of land, mentioning neighbors, past disagreements, and a promise of reconciliation. Clara felt a thrill of discovery. This was more than just old belongings. It was a window into the lives, emotions, and challenges of the people who had come before her. She carefully copied the details into her notebook, determined not to lose any part of the story. As she continued sorting through the crates, Clara noticed another layer of mystery. Some of the items didn't match the typical tools or farm supplies. There were small, intricate carvings on pieces of wood, a few tiny jars filled with colorful powders, and old photographs showing people in strange attire she didn't recognize. Each discovery added a layer of intrigue. Clara realized that the ranch had been more than just a place for work. It had been a place where lives intersected, where stories were made, and where secrets had quietly lingered, waiting for someone to uncover them. The sound of hooves outside caught her attention. She looked up to see the same man who had visited before, standing near the fence with a calm but focused expression. "Morning, Clara," he called. "I thought I'd check in. Find anything interesting yet?" Clara smiled, excitement brightening her face. "Yes. You won't believe some of the things I've found. There are letters, photographs, tools, even small carvings that I think belong to someone who really cared about this place." The man nodded thoughtfully. "That's the ranch for you. It has a way of keeping its stories hidden until someone is ready to see them." His words resonated with Clara. She felt a connection not only to the past, but also to the present, realizing that discovering history was as much about the people uncovering it as it was about the objects themselves. Together, they worked through the morning, carefully examining the items and trying to piece together the events of decades ago. Clara discovered letters between two families, hinting at both friendship and rivalry. There were maps showing hidden water sources and notes about repairs to fences and barns. Each document revealed a layer of life on the ranch, showing the effort, resilience, and hopes of those who had lived there before. Clara's imagination came alive as she pictured the families, their children running across the fields, and their evenings spent around the fire, sharing stories of the day. By midday, Clara decided to investigate a small loft in the barn she had not yet explored. She climbed the wooden ladder carefully, the steps creaking beneath her weight. The loft was filled with dusty old chests, bundles of straw and forgotten blankets. She began to sift through the items, uncovering another treasure trove of letters, journals, and sketches. Among them, she found a bundle tied with faded ribbon, a collection of drawings and notes from a young boy who had lived on the ranch decades ago. His drawings were simple but full of life: horses, barns, animals, and family members. Clara felt a warmth in her heart as she realized she was connecting with a child who had seen the ranch through eyes filled with wonder, curiosity, and imagination. As she carefully read through the boy's notes, Clara discovered a recurring theme: a longing to understand the land and the people around him, and a dream to explore beyond the ranch. The words resonated deeply with her own curiosity. She realized that even generations ago, the people of the ranch had faced questions, challenges, and dreams very similar to her own. It was as if time itself had folded around her, connecting the past with the present in ways she could barely describe. Afternoon arrived with the soft hum of wind through the barn's wooden beams. Clara took a short break, stepping outside to stretch and breathe the fresh air. The plains stretched endlessly before her, golden in the afternoon sun. She noticed the birds circling above, the distant mountains rising sharply against the horizon, and the gentle sway of the grasses in the wind. The ranch felt alive in a way it never had before, full of stories waiting to be uncovered and understood. Clara felt a renewed sense of determination. She was not just discovering history, she was living it, learning from it, and connecting with it on a personal level. Returning to the barn, Clara noticed something unusual near one of the old chests: a small key, partially hidden beneath a layer of dust. She picked it up, turning it over in her hand. It was heavy, worn smooth from use, and she had no idea what it might unlock. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could it open a secret chest, a hidden drawer, or a locked room in the old ranch house? The thrill of the unknown made her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of discovery she had hoped for, and it filled her with excitement and anticipation for what was yet to come. As the day drew to a close, Clara carefully cataloged everything she had discovered in her notebook. She placed the key safely in a small cloth pouch, promising herself she would find its lock soon. The barn, once a quiet and ordinary part of the ranch, had transformed into a place of mystery, history, and discovery. Clara felt proud, fulfilled, and eager to continue her journey. The past had come alive in ways she had never expected, and she knew that each day would bring new revelations and challenges. The sun set in brilliant streaks of orange and purple, casting long shadows across the plains. Clara stepped outside one last time, looking over the vast land she had grown to love even more deeply than before. She felt a connection to the ranch that went beyond chores or ownership. It was now about stories, lives, and the courage to uncover them. Her heart swelled with the knowledge that she was part of something much larger than herself, and that the discoveries of today were only the beginning of a journey that would continue to unfold, full of wonder, suspense, and lessons about life, courage, and resilience. As she prepared for bed, Clara wrote a final entry in her journal, describing the key she had found, the letters, and the sketches. She reflected on the connections she felt to the people of the past, and how those connections inspired her to keep searching, keep learning, and keep exploring. With a sense of peace and anticipation, she drifted to sleep, dreaming of the secrets yet to be uncovered and the adventures that awaited her on the ranch in the days to come. The next morning, Clara woke before the sun had fully risen. The sky was still painted in soft shades of blue and gray, and the air carried a chill that hinted at the coming day. She dressed quickly, her mind focused on the barn and the new discoveries waiting there. Over the past days, the ranch had transformed in her mind from a simple working farm to a living storybook, full of mysteries and forgotten tales. Today, she felt, might be the day she uncovered something truly remarkable. After feeding the animals and making sure the fences were secure, Clara grabbed her notebook, a lantern, and the small key she had found the day before. Its presence in her pocket was a constant reminder of the unknown waiting to be discovered. The thought of what it might unlock made her heart beat faster with excitement. She walked briskly across the dew-covered fields, her boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. The plains were quiet except for the faint sounds of morning, the rustle of grass, the distant call of a bird, and the low murmur of the animals settling into their routines. When she reached the barn, Clara paused at the doorway, taking a deep breath. The inside of the barn smelled of hay, wood, and the faint mustiness of age. Dust motes danced in the morning sunlight that streamed through the gaps in the walls. She set down her notebook and lantern, then moved toward the section of the barn where she had discovered the key. The crate it had been hidden under was still there, but today she felt certain the key belonged somewhere else. She scanned the shelves, the old chests, and the loft, examining every detail with careful eyes. Her gaze fell on an old chest tucked into a shadowed corner of the loft. It was made of dark wood, worn smooth from years of use, with a simple but sturdy lock. Clara felt her pulse quicken. Could this be what the key opened? She climbed the ladder carefully, carrying the key in her hand, and approached the chest. Her fingers trembled slightly as she inserted the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. With a soft click, the lock opened, and the chest creaked as she lifted the heavy lid. Inside, Clara found a collection of letters, journals, and small personal items, all neatly stacked. The papers were yellowed and fragile, but their contents were filled with life. She carefully lifted the first letter, unfolding it with reverence. The handwriting was elegant, flowing in a style from another time. It told the story of a family who had lived on the ranch long ago, their hopes, struggles, and daily life recorded in detail. Clara could picture them tending the animals, mending fences, and sitting by the fire at night, sharing stories and laughter. Among the letters were notes about dreams and plans for the future, as well as accounts of challenges faced during harsh winters, storms, and times of scarcity. Clara read each one with growing fascination. She began to understand that the ranch had been more than a place to work. It had been a home, a place of community, and a canvas for the lives of those who had come before her. The personal items in the chest, a small hand-carved figurine, a faded ribbon, a tiny embroidered handkerchief, added a tangible sense of connection to the people behind the letters. Hours passed as Clara immersed herself in the stories. She found herself smiling at the descriptions of simple joys, like a child catching a chicken or a family celebrating a birthday. She also felt a pang of empathy for the hardships described, from illness and accidents to storms that destroyed crops or fences. The letters painted a vivid picture of life on the ranch, revealing resilience, courage, and hope in the face of challenges. Clara realized that she was not just learning about history, she was connecting deeply with human experiences that transcended time. Midday arrived, and the sun shone brightly through the barn windows. Clara took a break, stepping outside to stretch and breathe in the fresh air. The plains stretched endlessly before her, golden and alive in the sunlight. She noticed the horses grazing, the chickens pecking at the ground, and the distant mountains rising sharply against the horizon. It was a scene she had always known, yet today it felt new, alive with the stories she had uncovered. Every blade of grass, every worn fence post, seemed to carry a memory waiting to be told. Returning to the barn, Clara continued her exploration. She discovered maps tucked among the letters, showing paths, streams, and landmarks that were no longer used. Some maps included handwritten notes about hidden areas where the land's previous owners had stored tools, food, or supplies during harsh winters. Clara carefully sketched copies of these maps in her notebook, imagining the families navigating the land, learning its rhythms, and adapting to its challenges. Each line on the page represented not just geography, but the lives of people who had loved, struggled, and thrived here long before her. As she worked, the man who had visited before appeared at the barn door. He watched silently for a moment, then said, "You've made real progress. I can see you're uncovering more than just objects, you're discovering stories." Clara nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "It's incredible," she said. "Every item, every letter, it all feels like a piece of someone's life. I never realized how much history the ranch held." He stepped inside, helping her organize the items into groups: letters, maps, sketches, and personal belongings. Together, they began to piece together a timeline of the ranch's history. Clara realized that the work was not just about discovery. It was about understanding, about connecting the dots between generations and learning from the past. The more she uncovered, the more she felt a bond with the people who had come before her, and the more she understood the depth of life on the ranch. In the afternoon, Clara found a small bundle of journals bound with leather. The journals belonged to a young woman who had lived on the ranch many years ago. Reading them, Clara discovered stories of courage, ambition, and determination. The writer described teaching children, caring for animals, and maintaining the ranch during difficult times. There were also reflections on dreams and personal growth, as well as accounts of moments of joy and friendship. Clara felt inspired by the woman's resilience and admired the way she had faced life's challenges with strength and grace. By evening, Clara had cataloged all of the items she had discovered that day. She stepped outside, looking over the plains as the sun dipped below the horizon. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple, and a soft breeze carried the scent of grass and earth. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had connected with lives from the past and that their stories were now part of her own journey. As night fell, Clara lit a small lantern in her room and wrote in her journal, capturing every detail of the day. She described the key, the chest, the letters, and the maps, as well as her thoughts and feelings as she uncovered each piece of the past. She reflected on the courage, resilience, and hope of the people whose lives she had glimpsed, and how those qualities inspired her own actions and dreams. Finally, she closed her journal, placing the key safely beside it. Clara lay in bed, listening to the quiet sounds of the ranch at night, the soft breathing of the animals, the rustling of leaves in the wind, and the distant calls of nocturnal birds. The world felt vast, alive, and full of stories waiting to be discovered. She realized that her journey was only beginning. The ranch held more secrets, more challenges, and more lessons than she could have imagined. With a heart full of determination and a mind alive with curiosity, Clara drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, ready to face the adventures and discoveries that awaited her in the days to come. The morning sun broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the wide plains. Clara woke with a renewed sense of purpose. The past days of discoveries had filled her with excitement and curiosity, but today she felt that something important was about to happen. The ranch, with all its hidden histories and secrets, seemed to hold its breath as if waiting for her next move. She quickly finished her morning chores, feeding the animals, checking the fences, and making sure the barns were secure. Her routine was familiar, yet her mind was filled with thoughts of the chest she had unlocked, the letters she had read, and the maps she had copied. Each discovery had revealed the lives of people who had lived and worked on this land long before her. Today, she hoped to uncover the final pieces of their story. Clara entered the barn, carrying her notebook and lantern. She moved carefully, her eyes scanning every corner. The chest from the loft still held some items she had not yet examined fully. As she opened it, she found a bundle of carefully wrapped letters tied with a faded ribbon. The handwriting was small and elegant, each letter addressed to someone she had seen mentioned in the other documents. Clara could feel the weight of these words. They were messages meant to be preserved, and now they had found her. She began to read, her eyes scanning the pages with growing wonder. The letters told stories of community, friendship, and cooperation among the families who had lived on the ranch. They spoke of shared struggles during harsh winters, helping neighbors rebuild after storms, and celebrating small victories together. Clara realized that the ranch had always been more than land and buildings. It had been a home, a community, and a place where lives intertwined across generations. Among the letters, she discovered a series of journals belonging to a young boy who had grown up on the ranch. His words were full of dreams, observations, and the excitement of youth. He wrote about exploring the fields, discovering secret paths, and imagining adventures far beyond the plains. Clara smiled as she read, remembering her own childhood curiosity and the way the land had always seemed full of possibilities. She carefully copied the entries into her notebook, determined to preserve these memories. After a while, Clara noticed something unusual. A small, folded paper had been tucked between the journal pages. She unfolded it to reveal a map with detailed markings showing hidden corners of the ranch she had never explored. There were symbols indicating water sources, old wells, and even a small grove of trees at the edge of the property. Clara felt a surge of excitement. This map was a guide to places that had been forgotten, and it promised new discoveries that could deepen her understanding of the ranch's history. She decided to follow the map immediately. Stepping outside, she walked across the fields, her boots sinking slightly into the soft morning soil. The plains were alive with movement, birds calling overhead, a gentle breeze rustling the grass, and the distant lowing of cows. Clara followed the markings carefully, each step leading her closer to the hidden corners indicated on the map. She felt a sense of adventure, as if she were retracing the footsteps of those who had walked the land decades ago. Eventually, she reached a small grove of trees, just as the map had indicated. The trees formed a natural barrier, their branches thick and protective. Clara noticed a small clearing at the center of the grove, where sunlight streamed down like a spotlight. In the middle of the clearing lay a weathered wooden box, partially covered by fallen leaves. Her heart pounded as she approached it, realizing she had found something that had been hidden for generations. She knelt down and brushed away the leaves, revealing carvings on the box that matched the symbols on the map. With careful hands, she opened it to find another collection of letters, photographs, and personal items. These belonged to the earliest inhabitants of the ranch, detailing their lives, hopes, and the challenges they had faced. Clara spent hours reading, connecting the stories from this box to those she had discovered in the barn. She felt as if the entire history of the ranch was unfolding before her, piece by piece. Among the items, she found a small leather-bound journal that had belonged to a woman who had lived through the earliest years of the ranch. Her writing was filled with wisdom, describing how she had managed the land, cared for the animals, and supported her family. The journal spoke of courage, determination, and the importance of community. Clara felt inspired by the woman's strength and resilience. She realized that the qualities that had helped the ranch thrive in the past, hard work, persistence, and care for others, were the same values she needed to carry forward in her own life. As the afternoon sun climbed high, Clara took a break to look around the grove. The clearing was peaceful, a hidden sanctuary that had been preserved over the years. She imagined the people who had once visited this spot, seeking solace, sharing secrets, or simply enjoying a quiet moment away from the demands of ranch life. The thought filled her with a sense of connection to the past, a feeling that she was part of a story much larger than herself. When she returned to the barn with the new discoveries, the man who had visited before was waiting. He looked at the items she carried and smiled. "You've done remarkable work," he said. "These pieces complete the story in ways I didn't think were possible. You've brought the past to life." Clara felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The ranch, once just a place of work and routine, had become a living record of history. She had uncovered stories of courage, hope, and community, connecting with generations of people who had called this land home. She realized that her journey had not just been about discovering objects. It had been about understanding lives, learning lessons, and feeling the continuity of human experience. As evening approached, Clara carefully organized everything she had found, placing letters, journals, and photographs in safe areas. She created a system for preserving the information, knowing that these stories should be remembered and shared. She felt a quiet pride in her work, understanding that she had become the keeper of the ranch's history, tasked with ensuring that the lessons and memories of the past would endure. The sun set in brilliant shades of red and gold, casting long shadows across the plains. Clara stepped outside, breathing in the cool evening air. She watched the animals settle for the night, listened to the distant call of an owl, and felt the peaceful rhythm of the land. The ranch was alive with stories, and she felt privileged to have uncovered them. She understood that life on the ranch was more than chores and survival. It was about courage, connection, and the wisdom that comes from understanding the past. That night, Clara wrote in her journal, capturing every detail of the day and reflecting on her discoveries. She wrote about the hidden grove, the wooden box, the letters, and the journals, as well as her thoughts and emotions while exploring the ranch's secrets. She reflected on the people she had met through their writings, imagining their daily lives, their challenges, and their triumphs. Writing brought a sense of closure and fulfillment, as though her journey had reached a meaningful point while leaving room for future discoveries. As she lay in bed, the ranch quiet and peaceful, Clara felt a sense of connection that went beyond time. She had uncovered the lives, hopes, and stories of generations, learning lessons of resilience, courage, and the importance of community. She understood that her own life was now intertwined with the history of the ranch, and that she had a role in preserving and honoring the past. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind alive with curiosity, she drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, ready to face the future with the same courage and determination she had learned from those who had come before her. The ranch, bathed in moonlight, stood as a testament to the enduring spirit of its people. Clara had uncovered its secrets, but she also knew that life would continue to bring new challenges, new stories, and new moments of wonder. She had learned that the past and present are deeply connected, and that understanding history is not just about remembering. It is about carrying lessons forward, living with purpose, and finding joy in the beauty and resilience of life.